So it's Parshas Vayigash. It's the third parsha that deals exclusively with the story of Yosef and his brothers, which is obviously a very difficult sugya to comprehend what was going on, and we're not even going to attempt. But you know that everything that's in Torah is miloshin hoyra'ah, Torah is miloshin lesson, and we're meant to learn lessons from the stories in the Torah Avada. And maybe there are things that we can learn, not that we're making statements about the Shvatim, not about Yosef, not about the Machlokes, but what we can take for ourselves from this story. So, in this week's parasha, it says, "V'lo yochol Yosef lehisapek l'chol hanitzavim olav." He could no longer restrain himself. He could no longer control himself. L'chol hanitzavim olav, as they were all standing there, the Mitzrim was standing around him. Vayikra hoitziu kol ishmei olai. So he reveals himself to his brothers when all the Mitzrim are gone. But we see he can no longer control himself. And that's why he made sure that all the Mitzrim leave. But it seems that if he would be able to be misapek, if he would be able to control himself a bit longer, he would have continued to pretend. He would have continued to act as a stranger. He only revealed his identity because he was loy yochel Yosef lehis apek. And we find that very schwer, because what was he trying to, why would he keep on torturing them? Why would he want to go on and be misnaker elehem? We see that Yosef really had nothing personal against his brothers. As soon as he revealed himself, it says, they couldn't respond. They were startled. Yes, so what happens? Yosef says, don't feel bad, don't feel sad. Yeah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me here to bring life to the world. So he sounds pretty much like he's not even upset. So why was he gonna continue to be misnaker elehem if he would be able to be misapek? And he only revealed himself to his brothers because v'lo yochel Yosef lehisapek. Why did he make them bring Binyamin down? There's another question. Yosef knew Avada how much pain his father is experiencing all these years, and the distance between Mitzrayim and Hebron is only a distance of a few days. So how is it that Yosef is the Mishnah Lamelech in Mitzrayim for 9 years already, and he doesn't bother sending a message to his father that he's alive and well? In Parshas Miketz, Kapitel Mem Beis Pasuk Zayin, it says, "Vayar Yosef es Echov, Vayar Yosef es Echov." Vayakirem, he recognized them. Vayisnaker elehem, he acted as a stranger. Vayidaber itam koshois, he spoke harshly to them. Vayomer alehem me'ayin basem, where are you from? Vayomer me'eretz Knan lishbor oichel. Vayaker Yosef es echov, vehem loy hikiruhu. Yosef recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. Vayizkor Yosef es achaloimois asher cholam lohem. He remembered his dreams and he accused them of being spies. So, what's the Hemshech HaKosuf? What does it mean? How does this come into here? So Rashi says, Asher cholam lohem aleihem v'yoda sheniskaimu sheharei hishtachavu loy. He saw now that his dreams came true because they bowed down to him. So how does that explain anything? Vayizkor Yosef es hachaloimes asher cholam lohem, vayomer alehem meraglim. So the Ramban actually says, "Ulefi daiti shahadavar beheipach," that the way to read this pasuk is punkt verkehrt. Ki yoyma hakosov, ki berois Yosef es echav mishtachavim loy. When he saw that his brothers are bowing down to him, Zochar kol hachaloimes asher cholam lahem. He remembered all the dreams that he dreamt about them. V'yoda sheloi niskayim echad mehem bapam hazois. That one of the dreams did not yet come true. Ki yoidea bepisroinon, ki kol echav yishtachavu loy. Because he knows that all the brothers have to be mishtachavim. And the Kebon Shaloi Roa es Binyamin Imohem, since he didn't see Binyamin amongst them, Choshav Zois HaTachbula Sheyalil Aleihem. So that's why he thought of this trick that he's going to tell them Meraglomatem and he's going to bring about that Binyamin should come, and Binyamin will bow down to him too. Lekayim HaChaloim. And the Ramban goes on to say, Valkein, Loi Rotzo Lahagid Lohem Ani Yosef Achechem, V'loimar Maharu, Va'alu el Avi. He hoya Aviv Bobali Suffolk. But he didn't want that to happen because he wanted Binyamin to come and bow down to him. And the Ramban adds, V'ilulei Kain, if not for this cheshbon, hoya Yosef choyte chet godel et Tzair Aviv u'lahamida yomim rabim kishochul v'ovel al Shimon v'olov. If it wasn't for the fact that Yosef did this in order to make the dreams come true, it would have been a chet gadol to be mitzaer his father for such a long time. Even if he would want to cause his brother some tsar, his father is guilty of nothing. How does he not have rachmanis on his father? Okay, and he goes on and on that the whole thing was in order that the chaloimos should be miskayim. So also says the Goyen and the Aderes Eliyahu. He says, "Vayizkor Yosef es chaloimos lo hidia shekol ma she'osa lo yosa ela ekev tzidkosoi sheyiskayim hachaloimos sheloi lahakrish ritzoyin ugzeiras elyon." Ad kan the lashon of the Goyen. So Yosef did all this in order to bring about the realization of the chaloimos. But the Akedah doesn't like this at all. In the Sefer Akedah, Yitzchak from Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, he says, "Utmihani ki matay elas loy b'shiyas kaimu." What benefit does Yosef have from the kiyum of the chaloimos? Va'af ki yehitoy elas. Even if there is a benefit, loy hoyo loy lachtoy keneged oviv. This is a sin. I mean, being Mitzvah his father. He says, the dreams, Hashem that created those dreams will deliver their pisrin. In other words, man is not in charge of making the dreams come true. He says, Gam shetiroeh sichlus atzuma. It seems like to be a tremendous narishkeit, it's tremendous tipshus. That a person should make an effort to make his dreams come true. Dreams are meant to come true, not midas bailim. Therefore, the Akedah is totally against this pshat. Okay, if we don't accept this pshat, so then what is really going on? Why is Yosef playing this game with his brothers? There's another general question in the whole parsha, in this week's parsha. How did the brothers not chap that the one that they're dealing with is Yosef, their brother? On the pasuk Vayake Yosef es echa v'hem lo hikiruhu, Yosef recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. Rashi says Vayake Yosef es echa shehinicham chasumei zakon, because when he left them, they were already bearded. V'hem lo hikiru sheyotza etzlam. Okay, so when they parted, Yosef didn't have a beard yet, and now he has a beard, so they didn't recognize him. It's hard to understand that this change was so significant that they couldn't recognize him. and even after they wined and dined with him, yeah, they still didn't recognize him. It also Chazal say that Ziv ikunin shel Yosef hoyodoimel shel Yaakov, that Yosef looked like his father, so they could have recognized him mikoyach the dimion to his father. Probably he looked like his father, and his father had a beard, so they should have still recognized him. The emes, even without recognizing his facial features, they should have understood who he is. I mean, when he was in the base by Tifar, it says he was known as an Ivri, as it says in Kapitel Lamed Tes Yudalit, Vatikro la'anshe Beisa, Vatoim Elohem Lemor, Ru'u Hevi Lonu Ish Ivri Letzachek Bonu. So, how many Ivrim were there? L'chayra Ivrim were only the family of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So he was known in Egypt as an Ish Mitzri, as an Ish Ivri. And as the Sarah Mashkin says in Kapitel Memal of Pasuk Yud Beis, V'sham itanu nar Ivri. So it was known in Mitzrayim that a nar Ivri, a Hebraic boy, became the Mishnah Lamelech. So how did the brothers not hear about this? And if they heard that an Ish Ivri became the Mishnah Lamelech, I mean, they should have figured that that's their brother. Who else is it? And not only that, it says, Vayosimu loy levadoi, v'lohem levadom, when Yosef sets the table for them, yeah? So it says, Vayosimu loy levadoi, they set separately for Yosef, v'lohem levadom, and for the brothers levadom, Ulemitzrim ha'oichlim itoy levadom, ki lo yuchlu ha'mitzrim lechor les ha'ivrim lechem, ki to'eva hi lemitzrayim. So during this Suda, it was emphasized that Yosef is an Ivri. And it says, Vayeshvu lefonav habchor ki bchorosoi, v'atzor ki tzirosoi, vayismuhu ha'anoshim ish ol ri'eyu. Oh, they were surprised that somebody over here knows, I mean, the order of their knows their ages and set them up in that way. No. So they should have started to figure out that the man across the table is Yosef. Yeah, they didn't understand. Utvoyach tevach v'hochein. Yeah, Yosef prepares the Suda. It says, Amar Reb Yosef Reb Chanina, Mai diksiv utvoyach tevach v'hochein. The Gemara says in Chulin Daf Tzadik Aleph, Utvoyach tevach pra lohem beis hashchita. Show them the beis hashchita, that they should see that the shchita was done properly. V'hochein tul gid hanoshe b'fneim. Remove the gid hanoshe in front of them. Rashi says, pra lohem beis hashchita shelo yoimru b'sar nechira ani oichel. That they shouldn't say about Yosef that he's eating b'sar nechira. L'fisha b'nei Yaakov shemri mitzvahs hoyu. The afal b'shaloi nitna Torah mekubolim hoyu me'avisayim. No, it's the chafel of a fella. That, I mean, he's doing all this, and they're not figuring out. I mean, it was on the table, so to speak. Yeah, that he's Yosef. Yeah, he set the table in that order. He tells them, he tells the servants, he tells them, and after all this, they still didn't even consider that maybe this is Yosef. You know, it says like this. It says in this week's parsha, yeah, we say, "V'loyochel Yosef le'isapik l'chol hanitzavim olav vayikra hoitziu kol ish me'olai v'loyomad ish itoy b'ezvada Yosef alechav vayitein koiloi b'bchi vayishmu Mitzrayim vayishma beis paray vayoyme Yosef alechav ani Yosef ha'oid ovi chai v'loyochlu echav la'anois ki nivhalu miponov." So in the Midrash Rabbah it says, Abba Kohen Bardala Omar. Oy lanu miyoim hadin. Yeah, the day of judgment. Oy lanu miyoim hatoichecha, the day of rebuke. Why? Because Yosef kotnan shel shvatim haya. So he wasn't such an important person in the family of Bnei Yaakov. He was the kotnan shel shvatim. V'loy hoyu yecholim lamoid b'toichachtoi. They couldn't withstand his toichecha. How do we know? How do we know? So if they couldn't withstand the toichecha of Yosef, Kal v'chomer, we will not be able to withstand the Teichecha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Maisa Yosef didn't tell them anything. He all he said is, I'm Yosef. So where's the Teichecha? So it must be l'chara that Ani Yosef. That's the Teichecha. Meaning, he's saying to them, listen, I'm right in front of you. And all the signs are there that I'm Yosef. How can it be that it's so plain and obvious and you didn't figure out the reality that's in front of your face? He says, Ani Yosef. That's the oichichacha ve'ercha le'inecha. The nivalu miponov is that they were shaken up from the fact that they didn't recognize the truth that was so obvious, that was so apparent, that was so open. Ani Yosef. And that really shook them up because they realized how blinded they were that they didn't see that he is Yosef. You know that it's not only that the brothers knew that Yosef is a Mitzrayim, they even were searching for him. It says in the Bereshis Rabbah, Parshat Tzadik Aleph Vav, Vayerdu achei Yosef. Yeah, they went down to get food l'chor. Vayerdu achei Yosef. The Medrash is Bnei Yisrael tzarech hamikra loyma. Why are the Shvatim referred to as achei Yosef when they go to Mitzrayim? They should be referred to as Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Yaakov. Ela betchile loy nahagu boy achve umecharu. In the beginning, they didn't treat him like a brother, and they sold him. But at this point, they regretted it. When will we go to Mitzrayim and bring our brother back to our father? So they all decided, we're going to Mitzrayim. This is an opportunity. We're going to find him. We're going to bring him back home. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Simon, Af Yosef yoidei ahoyo she'echav yordim limitzrayim lishboroichel. He knew that they're coming for food. Ma'asa. Hoishiv shoimrim al kol hapsachim. So all the entrances to Mitzrayim, he had shoimrim over there. V'amar lahem ru'u, kol mi she'nichnas lishboroichel, kisvu shmoi v'shem aviv. Write down his name and his father's name. Lo'erev heviu psakim. They brought the tzetlach, the notes. V'asu kach. Kivin shebo b'nei Yaakov, kol echad ve'echad nichnes b'shar shaloi. Each one came through a different entrance. V'kosvu shmoisa. La'erev heviu loy hapsakim. They brought the psakim to Yosef. Zeh koirei Ruven ben Yaakov. Ve'echad koirei Shimon ben Yaakov. Ve'echad Levi. V'chein hashoyarim kol echad shaloi. Miyad amar lem Yosef, sismu es ha'oitzeris u'pisru oitzer echad. Now lock up all the food, and there should only be one outlet where food is distributed. V'nosan shmoisam lebal ha'oitzar. He gave the names of the brothers that arrived to the Bal ha'oitzar. V'amar lo ra'ei k'shiyavoyu ha'anoshim ha'ela liyotcha. When these people will come and they'll show you their name, they'll tell you their name, and you have the name written down. Tfois oisam. So you should take them and bring them to me. But 3 days passed and the brothers didn't show up to get food. So Yosef knew that they came into Mitzrayim, and 3 days passed and they haven't yet showed up at the food outlet to get food. Miyad notal Yosef shivim giborim mibeis hamelech v'shiger b'shvilam levakesh Yosef b'shuk. So he sent shivim giborim to go find them in the shuk. They found the Shvatim in a shuk shel zoynis. Frag the Medrash, "Ma tivon b'shuk shel zoynis?" Ella amru, the Shvatim thought to themselves, "Achinu Yosef yifei toyar v'yifei mare. Shema b'kubahu. Maybe he's in a kuba shel zoynis. V'tafsu oisam, they v'im lufnei Yosef." So we see, first of all, that the brothers didn't forget about Yosef, and they were actually looking for him. From as soon as they came into Mitzrayim, even before they went for the food, they were looking for Yosef to bring him back to the father. They searched and they looked, but in all the wrong places. And why is that? Because their mind was made up about Yosef. They looked in the places where, according to their understanding, right, he ought to be. There and only there they looked. But where he really was, since according to their perception, he wouldn't be there. So not only they didn't look for him, they weren't even able to see him when all the signs showed that he is Yosef. They couldn't even see. Because after a person makes up his mind, he's not willing and he's not able to see what doesn't fit into his narrative, what doesn't fit into how he already made up his mind. He becomes stuck, and he's locked into his perception, and he lacks the flexibility to move along with reality. So I mean, Yosef is in front of them, and they're not chopping who he is, and they're looking for him in the Shuk Shel Zaynis. You know, on the pasuk, Vayipol al Tzavrei Binyamin Ochiv Vayef. Right, so Yosef falls over the Tzavrei Binyamin and he cries. Chazal say, Al Shnei Mikdoshois Sha'asidim Liois Bechelkoi Shel Binyamin Va'asidim Lechorev. That's the Lashon Rabbin Tzavorov. He's crying over the two Mikdoshes. So, I mean, why is he crying now about the two Mikdoshes? I mean, this is the time of Tikkun Chatzos now? I mean, he's finally meeting his brother, but Chazal are telling us he's not crying because he's so emotional about the meeting. He's crying now about the Mikdoshes that will be in the Chelik of Binyamin V'asidim Lichorev. So the Sfas Emes says in Tov Reish Mem Aleph, Inyan Habchir Shel Yosef HaTzadik V'Chazal Dorshu Al HaChurbanos. By the way, I think Yosef HaTzadik is the only one in the Whole Chumash Bereshis, or maybe in the Whole Chumash, that cries, and he cries 7 times. So the Chazal Dorshu Al Churbanos. So Man Yoni Lakan. So what does it have to do with what's happening over here and now? He's meeting Binyamin. Why is it the time to cry over the Mikdoshes? So he says, "V'yitochen loimal piloshen haposik v'lo yochol Yosef lehis apek." Yosef could no longer control himself. That's why he reveals his identity. Kanire, it seems from this, shehoya mihatzorech oid la'akev atzmai, that really he should have controlled himself longer. V'im hoya b'yecholtom l'sakein ad hasoif lo hoya hagolus v'hachorban. Kasher chachamim higidu ki hakol nimshuk me'ashorish. So the Sfas Emes is saying the brothers needed to experience the pain. If they would have experienced a bit more pain, there would be a tikkun gomor for the chait of Mechiras Yosef, and then there would never have been the churbanos. It would have been the tikkun hagomor. So, and therefore, Yosef really wanted to go on with this to bring them to the point where their tshuva and their tikkun will be complete. V'aklal ki avodas ha'ovois hachana labonim rak shelo hoyo bekoichoy lisbol kol kach tzar kasher me'ed hakosav v'lo yochel Yosef le'sapik. He couldn't do it anymore. V'lochein hirgish Yosef miyad she'iyu achorbanos. As soon as he couldn't control himself and he had to let go, he knew that there's going to have to be a churban because the tikkun wasn't achieved yet. He wanted them to bring them to a tikkun, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't take it anymore. So he had to reveal himself, and he immediately realized. So there will be a churban. There'll be churbanos. Well, the bit that was left that we have to be masakin. I mean, for many doris we're suffering in order to correct the little bit that was left. That the Avos V'Ashvatim, their madrega was so high that with just a minute longer, they could have finished the tikkun. And since it wasn't finished, since it wasn't complete, it takes us doiris of suffering to finish that tikkun. So the Sfas Emes is telling us that this reminds me, by the way, this is as an aside, because there's was it the Chidushei Arim, I think, that lost all his children during his lifetime. And he said, maybe 10 or 13 children, and he said, Azah Achzorius, That's what they say. Kenor de balarachimim aleinton. Such an achzari is something so cruel only the balarachimim could do. So,
yeah.
So this really connects with this word because the Rebbeinu Shalom is the balarachimim. He owns the rachamim. He's in full control of the rachamim. And when rachamim is not called for, when the tikkun requires achzarias, he can do it. He doesn't have the problem of a lo yochel lehisapik. But Yosef has the problem of lo yochel lehisapik. And since he had the problem of lo yochel lehisapik, he couldn't finish the tikkun. Oh, so now we have to explain, I mean, how would the pain of the brothers that Yosef was causing them, how is that a tikkun for the chait of the mechira? And also, I mean, since we know that all onshim are for the purpose of tikkun, we also have to explain how the goliaths and the shmodis are a tikkun for the chait mechiras Yosef. Do you know it says in Mem Beis Chaf Aleph, Vayoimru ish el ochiv, avol ashemim anachnu al ochinu, asher ro'inu tzoras nafshoy behischananoi eleinu, v'loi shomanu, al kein bo eleinu hatzora hazois. The Ramban says, Choshvu lahem ha'achzorius, ro'ui la'oinish godel min ha'mechira. They're focusing now on the ro'inu tzoras nafshoy behischananoi eleinu v'loi shomanu. Al kein bo eleinu hatzora hazois. They're not focusing on the mechira. They're focusing on not hearing his tzaras nafshay. Ki hoya achihem besoram mischanein u'misnapel lefneim v'lo yirachamu. The Sforno says, "Beschanenoi eleinu v'lo shamanu v'hayinu achzorim neged achinu afal pi shechashavnuhu l'roidev." We held that he's a roidev and he's chayiv misa. Hoya lanu l'rachein behischanenoi. We should have still had Rachmanis. Ukeneged midas achzari useinu, zeh ha'ish misachzer negdeinu. So they saw this as a direct einish mida keneged mida for their achzarius of not having Rachmanis on him. So the ikechet that needs tikkun is the lo shamanu behischanenoi, and not the mechira itself. So, Lefizeh, the whole Vayisnaker Yosef Alecho was really mechuven to accomplish this tikkun. I mean, there's a story, and I'm sure I'm going to kill it, but because I'm not good at telling stories. But there's a ma'aseh shehoyo shaloi hoya that once there was a war, and the army of the king was fighting the other king, and for some reason there was confusion, and the king went ahead of his army, and he arrived in a town where his army hasn't yet conquered, and he was noticed. So he ran into a Yid's house. The Yid chapped what's going on, so he right away did everything he can to save him, and he hid him in a hiding place behind. In the back room, behind boxes and sacks of flour, and Bizvos Ven, the soldiers came and they demanded from the Jew that he should let him out. But the Yid said he doesn't know what they're talking about. Anyway, they turned over the boxes and the sacks of the thing. And in the end, they finally gave up and they left. When the sakona passed, so the Yid tells the king that his life was saved. Then the king revealed to him that he's the king. He thought he was some a soldier of the other army. And the king told him that he's thanking him so much, for he saved his life, and soon his soldiers will come and conquer the city, and then he's going to invite him to the palace, and he'll give him anything he wants. Anyway, he came afterwards, and the king gave him presents, whatever he asked for. But then, Toich Kedei Advarim, the guy said to the king, so tell me, what did it feel like when you were there under the sacks of flour, that last minute when they were just about to move that last thing? The king got very upset. because a commoner, I mean, talks to a king like that, asks him such personal questions, and he immediately told his servants to lock him up, and he has to be killed because he's such a mechutzev. I mean, the Jew cried and begged for his life, but nothing helped. I mean, the king says he's a mechuyev misa. Anyway, as he's being taken to the gallows, the last minute before the ropes are being tightened, the king says to him, "Tell me, how do you feel right now?" So the Jew starts crying. I mean, how do I feel? It's impossible for me to describe. So he says, "Okay, that's what I wanted to tell you. You asked me what it felt like when I was under the sacks of flour when they were moving that last sack. I couldn't tell it to you in words. The only way I was able to give you that feeling is by setting up this whole thing." And he sent him home. Yeah, because in other words, there are some feelings, yeah, that you can't convey in words. You have to experience it in order to know it. So I'm saying the same thing is over here. It was only through the Vayisnak here, Yosef Elechov, and all the Alilas that the brothers were able to experience what Yosef felt like when they threw him into the bar and they sold him to the Ishmaelim. And only by experiencing this firsthand were they able to really have charota and do tshuva on the Ra'inu b'tzaras nafshei b'eskanenu yoleinu v'lo shamanu. And with that, they were able to be masakin the kilkul. So it's really those preconceived notions that don't allow us to hear and to see the behischanenu yoleinu. That's also what causes a person, not to be able to see the facts in front of him. He's locked into a certain concept, yeah, and he's locked into his take on reality, and he's not attentive to the reality that's evolving in front of him. They're looking for Yosef in a Shuk Shel Zaynis, but in the Beis HaMalchus, when they're standing Kenegdoi, and all the signs are that it's him, is V'heim Lo Hikiruhu. So they're really learning. They're learning what it means to be locked into a position and not have the ability, not have the flexibility, not have the ability to read what's actually happening. Yeah, that's the Toichecha of Ani Yosef. He's giving them Musar on the Lohi Kiruhu now and on the Lohi Kiruhu then. Yeah, you were locked into your position and to your opinion, and you didn't know me then, just like you didn't know me that now. Yeah, you don't have that openness, that flexibility, that sensitivity. But even though it was nivalu mipanav and they internalized this teicheka, but since lo yachol Yosef leisapik and they didn't experience it to the end, al kein bo aleinu atzor azois. So it wasn't a tikkun gomor, and that's why we need the churbanis and the golius in order to be mashlim this tikkun. How are the churbanis and the golius mashlim this tikkun? Because the pasuk says, "V'ger loy silchatz va'atem yedatem es nefesh hager ki gerim hayisem be'eretz Mitzrayim." Our gerus in Mitzrayim and in all golius gives us the tools to yedatem es nefesh hager. And that's what is the mechayev of a ger loy silchatz. So all the golius are really about developing within us the sensitivity, the understanding, the empathy for the outsider, for the underdog. The ger loy silchatz. V'atem yedatem es nefesh hager ki gerim hayisem be'eretz Mitzrayim. This is all part of the tikkun for the ra'inu b'tzoras nafshoi. This is the tikkun for that chait that's nimshach al pnei doirei doiris, as the Sfas Emes says. And that really, based on the pasuk, this is really a bit radical maybe, but it has sources. Based on the pasuk, kemayim aponim lefonim kein leiv adam la'adam. So in every argument, in every sinner, it's not black and white. It can't be that just one side is guilty. Yeah, because it's kamayim aponim leponim. So it could be that Yosef himself had to be sold for avdus, and he had to be in a beis asurim because he also had part he also had a part in this machloikis. So how did Yosef come out of the Beis Asur? They had the Sar Mashkin and the Sar Oifen had a dream. They had their dreams. Yosef baboike vayaroisam v'hinam zoyafim. Vayishal esarisei pari madua pneichem roim hayoim. Why do you look bad? And therefore they told him the dreams, and he was poised to the dreams. And then eventually, after 2 years, they brought him to be poised to the Chalavis of Pari. He became the Mishnah Lamelech Mitzrayim, who Hashalet to Amashbir. So the key to his redemption was really the fact that he noticed Madua Pneichem Roim Hayoim. He noticed the Hinam Zoyafim, and he asked them. He took an interest. Madua Pneichem Roim Hayoim. Now Yosef HaTzadik, we know he was in a different world than the Sarah Mashkin and Sarah Oifen spiritually. He also, I mean, shouldn't have had much positive feelings to the Sarah Mashkin and Sarah Oifen, who represented the regime that put him into jail. I mean, they were part of that. They were part of that regime. And also, I mean, to say when somebody's in jail, probably he's not in a good mood. So he must have noticed that today they're in a bit of a worse mood than yesterday. I mean, Madua Pneichem Roim Hayoim was a kasha, was a shaila. Why do you look a bit more upset than you were yesterday? So to notice that, you have to be really very, very caring and very sensitive to other people. And Memela, that was really the tikkun that Yosef made on his part in the machloikis with his brothers. So that's and Yosef was zoche, you know, as we know that tzvas lo yodati eshma. Eidus be a hoysef samoy, but say Alaretz Mitzrayim tzvas lo yodati eshma. The Gemara says in Soita that b'shosha amalei parei lo Yosef ubiladecha lo yorim ishes yodoy. Amru itztegini parei evet shelakochoy rabbi be'esrim kesef tamshileyu aleinu. Amalahen ginunei malchus ani royaboy. I see ginunei malchus. Amru lo im kain. Ginunei malchus im kain yehei yoideya b'shivim loshen. Ba Gavril, the limdoi shivim loshen. Shenema edus b'yahoisef samay b'tzeisei el eretz Mitzrayim svas lo yodati eshma. That at this point he came to a point where he understands languages that he never understood before. We can say that somebody that's attentive to facial expressions, I mean, not only to verbal communication, like Yosef, who noticed the Hinam Zoyafim, he cared about the Hine Pneichem Roim Hayoim, so he transcends the barriers of language. Sfas lo yodati eshma. He has the ability to hear even when it's spoken in a language that he doesn't speak. I'll go upon him. So the tikkun, as Chazal say, that the tikkun for the chait of Mechiras Yosef is nimshich in all doris. Yeah, the Machlon l'shivte Yeshurun says the Meshech Chochmah is referring to the chait of Mechiras Yosef, but it's Mefurish in Chazal that in every generation we are punished and we are part of the process of correction of the chait Mechiras Yosef. So it's the tikkun is to develop that sensitivity of B'hischanenoi Eilenu, Madua lo shamanu, that we should be attentive to other people's pain, and we should notice, and we should care, and we should look out to help others. Okay, Rabbi Sai, having said that, I think that I'm going to wish you a good Shabbos.